Thanks so much for creating time. I do want to maybe begin with the question of your service here in South Africa. How long has it been? How long have you been in the country? But also your general diplomatic journey as a diplomat of the people of Venezuela. Where were you from when you came to South Africa? Were you an ambassador elsewhere? If so, which countries?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. For me, it's not only a pleasure to be here, but an honor to be here with you and sharing with all the listeners a reality of the situation in Venezuela, especially the recent circumstances that we have been facing in Venezuela. Thank you very much for allowing us to raise our voice. I am here in South Africa as an ambassador since 1 year and a half. I arrived in 2024, June, and it has been a great experience. It's an honor to be in South Africa, for us, the diplomats. It's a really honor to be in South Africa for what South Africa means for us, especially in our region, Latin America and the Caribbean. So for me, it was a big prize to be here. I came from Tunisia, where I was ambassador as well. In Tunis for 5 years, it was also a very nice experience to be in a Northern African country that also shares with South Africa the struggle for the Palestinian people. Was amazing what we lived there. When the genocide starts, the last attacks starts in late 2023, what we saw in Tunisia make us strong also. Their solidarity with Palestine was also very huge. And the other mission, I was in Benin, in West Africa. Very interesting as well as their historical and cultural richness of this West African country. Those are the 3 African countries, the 3 countries that I've been appointed as an African, should I say, a specialist? As an African lover, as an African passionate. I have been working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, that we call it Ministry of People's Powers for Foreign Affairs. Since 20 years already. I was there as a director for Africa. So it's my field, and I feel very, very comfortable with it.
You and I were sharing just before we started the friendship that South Africa has with the people of Venezuela, and President Chávez was hosted in his presidential head of state visit to South Africa by President Thabo Mbeki.
That's right.
2008, you correctly put it. And you said something about it is a big honor for you to be here, taking into consideration what South Africa means in your region. I think, please do tell us, what does South Africa mean to the people of Latin America and the Caribbean?
Good. Beginning with former President Hugo Chávez. When he arrived to the presidency in 1999, he made a shift in the view of our relations policy, foreign relations policy, foreign affairs policy. He wanted now to look to Africa and to the global south in general, and not to the north, where that was the usual thing to do before. Why that? Because first of all, we share a common history, a common challenges, a common neo-colonial history as well that we live today, and especially because we share a common future and hopes that are similar. And Chávez began to build an initiative of linking Africa with our region, with Latin America and the Caribbean, what they called ASACOF, Forum of Cooperation of Africa and South America. And Chávez pushed very hard. Indeed, when he came to South Africa in 2008, we invited President Mbeki to attend the second summit of ASAC that was held in Margarita, in Venezuela, in 2009, with a great attendance from head of states from Africa and from South America, in Venezuela. From Africa, I remember South Africa was very committed with it, but also was President, Supreme Leader Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And Chávez in Venezuela was the motor, the great engine that was building this relation that was very important for us because it will make us greater and will allow us to attain sovereignty and real independence, because the richness we have in Africa, in South America, is huge. The problem is the manage it and the sovereignty of those resources, because the neocolonial system that we live in, that is very difficult. And we can see examples very recently when nuclear military powers try to be the king of the world, the master of the world, regardless in any international law. So we believe, and Chávez worked very hard on it, and also President Maduro has said us doing so, that the union and the strength of the relations in the Global South, or the South-South cooperation, but not only cooperation, but also political relations, is very important to overcome all these challenges of the 21st century.
Sticking with President Chávez, the situation we witnessed early January, all of us looking at it know that it had been an attempt before with a slight twist, but the Americans had orchestrated the removal of President Chávez, in which case the military of Venezuela captured him and imprisoned him. The people rose to reinstall him. It looks like it was just a simple improvement of that strategy, that in this case, the US itself finally did what it always wanted to do, took gloves off and abducted the head of state of Venezuela.
Yes.
I do want to ask a slightly different question about the security detail around President Maduro. Because I've got a big suspicion. I don't believe that the United States military Delta Force unit is that good, that they are this great, trained, militarily sophisticated unit. They could just simply come and adapt a head of state. I think even in the weakest of the states in the continent, they wouldn't be able to achieve that without cooperation of some sort, of some in the military and security detail. Are the Venezuelans worried that this may as well be the case? Because your military would not be the first time that it would have wanted to remove a sitting president. Are you worried that the activities of that evening may have been with the full or participation of some section of the military to allow the United States some tactical advantage in order for the abduction to take place?
Let me go to the beginning. First of all, I like to say that they are not good, they are evil. They are evil. And the story has demonstrated us what they are. You know, since the coming to power of former President Hugo Chávez, we have lived years of aggressions, and I'm talking since 26 years ago. You said it very well. They made a coup d'etat in 2002 against President Hugo Chávez. They captured him, and something happened that was amazing because it was successful. The coup d'etat was successful in terms that they captured President Hugo Chávez and they kept him. But what they do not expect, and I believe they not expect even now, is the answer or the response that the people of Venezuela had in that time. When millions of peoples, millions of Venezuelans went to the streets to ask for the release of President Hugo Chávez, alongside with loyals, military, that were also asking the same, especially the low ranks officials. United with the people, we succeed to get President Chávez back to power. 48 hours after the coup d'etat, in an amazing swift of events. And that make them realize the power that Hugo Chávez has in our people, in the Venezuelan people, but also in our army. Because, you know, armies in Latin American countries has always been linked to the U.S. They were a military school of the U.S. called Escuela de Panamá, Panama School, where the military were trained in the principles of national security. So militaries were trained by the U.S. officials to guarantee that no left parties in our country are going to succeed. So they were trained to capture leftist political leader, torture him, disappear them. So when you see our history in South America, the influence of USA has been very negative. They support all this dictatorship that we have in the 60s, 70s, 80s, included 80s, supporting dictators in Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, and so on, in this national security strategy to avoid the left to take power. Of course, Cuba was always an exception. After 59, they were always an exception and a reference for the patriotic movements in our region. And finally, Chávez came to power in 1999. And the first years, they don't know what to expect from Chávez, as he was military man. But when 2002 happened, and people and some loyal young military, succeed to take him back to power, they saw him like a big challenge, and they intensified their aggression. They have ever since trying to overthrow the Venezuelan government, the revolution that we call Bolivarian Revolution. And we call it Bolivarian Revolution because Simón Bolívar was this Venezuelan hero or revolutionary man that 200 years ago he led the struggle for our independence. And with a principle of unity and with a principle of sovereignty. That's the principle that Chávez wanted to relaunch, the principle of unity. And he begins to work for the unity of our region, independent of ideological links. But it was important to act together to get to have a better position to face the challenges that U.S. imperialism always has tried to influence. They have this doctrine, Monroe Doctrine. To summarize it, this doctrine Monroe says that all the region of Latin America and the Caribbean belongs to them. That means all the resources that we have should be for them. And they have acted in consequence, supporting this dictatorship, killing presidents in our region as they have done, invading countries as they have done as well, creating coup d'etat against some few progressive leaders. So they have had a very negative influence in our region, in a political level, and also economic, because our economies were also always depending on them. That's why our region, very rich in resources, has been also very poor. But things has changed already. When Chávez arrived to power, he really believes in this unity, and some achievements has been made. After Chávez came, 12 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean has had progressive governments. So we have Uruguay, a SWIFT in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Brazil, in 12 countries. Sometimes they came back with the most regressive part, but sometimes left came also to power. But now we know that we can do it.
Yes.
And we are pushing that we can do it. We create many mechanisms of integration, some such as UNASUR, CELAC, that is now taking place and have a strong position condemning the U.S. aggression, and willing also to link with Africa. We will have in March this year the first summit of CELAC-African Union. It's like a relaunch of what we called ASA. That was also the integration of Africa with South America. Now it's CELAC-African Union. That is Africa and the Latin American region, the first summit. We have ASA, unfortunately, goes down after the killing of Gaddafi in Libya and the death of Hugo Chávez. But now we're trying to relaunch it with this CELAC-African Union summit. That is for us very important, because we know that unity among the global South, but especially between Africa and the Latin American region, is very important, because it will make us strong in a very difficult time for all the humanity. As we saw the U.S. imperialism getting not caring at all on the international law, as they themselves have stated several times, including in the General Assembly of the United Nations. They don't care about international law. Their only limit is their own moral. So we have to be very concerned about it.
I was asking Ambassador about the similarities, as it were. Are you in any way concerned that the abduction of President Maduro could have been aided by some in the Venezuelan military?
Yes.
Is there a form of investigation of any sort to determine this? Particularly because it means President Rodriguez herself is not...
Yes, sorry, I didn't answer this part.
No, it's okay.
Of your question. They have always, in this interference that they are doing in our region, they have always trying to infiltrate our revolutionary governments, trying to create destabilization, trying to influence in our policies with their own agents or buying some others. They are good at that. Are they good at that? I don't know the word is good, but in some case they have been very effective. And I highlight the case of Ecuador, how they infiltrate the Communist Party in Ecuador. As amazing as half part of the Central Committee of the Communist Party in Ecuador in the 70s, when the Communist Party of Ecuador was very tough, half of them were working for the U.S. So sure, they will insist in infiltrate people on our government. They have always act like this, that is against the law that we have, including international law. But also, they are trying to create rumors and spreading rumors, especially on what you said. Are they being infiltrated? Are the deputy president being part of it? Of course not. It's part of the aggression as well. They create to spread this rumor. They spread this rumor in order to create division in our progressive force in Venezuela, in order to create divisions or broke the ties that we have with other solidarity movements in the world. But it's not true at all. The deputy president, Desi Rodriguez, who has been sworn as the acting president, as few hours later the abduction of President Nicolás Maduro, has reaffirmed her commitment with the release of President Maduro. Indeed, she was very, very clear, stating that she was an acting president. So the president still now, today, is President Nicolás Maduro, and we are going to fight for his release, as well as First Lady Celia Flores. And she has been very strong condemning the U.S. military intervention. He has been very strong facing them on the colonial exploitation they have now, because they want now what it was really what they want, to control our oil resources. And she has stand firm against that. She has a very huge responsibility, guaranteeing the unity of our people, the peace and the stability of our people, and standing firm against the U.S. pretension of getting our resources. But they have trying to break this unity. It's important you to know also the background she has. First of all, she's part of our Bolivarian revolution. She has been a very key factor in building our revolution. She's a brilliant woman, very committed with the revolution, with our people, and she has an important background that is important you to know. She is the daughter of a great of our communist leader that was killed in the 70s by the CIA. It's a background that is important to know, and that they didn't mention it, not to understand what she really is. She has a great responsibility, and it's that important that even them, Secretary of State Marco Rubio or President Trump, has threatened her, are still threatening her, and they said that she don't follow their instructions, she's going to have a worse destiny that President Maduro has. What is that? So she's committed with the revolution. Don't believe in those rumors, in those spreading of fake news, because it's what that is. Fake news is part of their strategy of division and of aggression. We cannot be part of that.
A very strong and powerful lobby within the United States, seemingly that also agitated for the type of action the United States took, the abduction of President Maduro. Seemingly they have been campaigning for the removal of President Rodriguez in favor of the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Machado. I'd like your reflections, firstly, on these threats that the U.S. keeps making. If you don't listen to us, Rodriguez, you will meet a worse fate than Maduro. But also you've got this prominent woman in Venezuela with a Nobel Peace Prize going to President Trump, giving him her own peace prize. Seemingly, the idea there is that she should have been preferred to become the president thereafter. What is the government's reading of that entire situation? And are we likely to see, taking this resistance that President Rodriguez is putting, a second phase of U.S. aggression to install Maria Machado to the head of state of Venezuela?
You know, at the first beginning of the aggression and the abduction, President Trump has said, because in the press conference, some journalists has asked about Maria Corina Machado, he has said that she's not able to take power in Venezuela because she don't handle the reality in Venezuela, because she don't have support on any sector, so she cannot be part of it. And it was said by themselves,
Yes.
by President Trump in themselves. So they knew what really she is. It's unfortunate that the Nobel Prize is also in decline because, as we've seen recently, is unfortunately that they give this Nobel Prize to her, where she is the main actor in our politics, asking for the U.S. military interventions since many, I will say months, I will say years. She is the one asking for increasing the unilateral coercive measures, the so-called sanctions, against our country, against her own country. How can a lady ask for military interventions on their own country, or increasing these sanctions that has badly affected our population? So that's why also she lost most of the popularity that she could have many years ago. But they know she's not able to do it. And on other hands, they know also that they have to make another strategy to really have a more different relations with Venezuela, because we are going to stand firm against the U.S. pretension of making us a colony of them. We are not a slave. We are not being a colony from anyone. And that is the spirit that you can feel in our people in Venezuela. Even the oppositional political parties of opposition are rejecting on one hand, the U.S. military aggressions against Venezuela, and on the other hand, the U.S. pretensions of getting control on our oil resource as we were a colony. Even them are rejecting this. So that has built important unity in our people, in our country, against these pretensions they have. They now can see it. And that's good news to set, because we are not allow them never to control or to impose us as a colony and to get the resource that they want. So they can do it. Okay, we have President Chávez did. We have relations with them, trade relations. They were producing oil, exporting oil in our country, the U.S. oil companies. And President Maduro was also willing so, but they have to leave as soon as the sanctions came. That's why they left, not because we want, but because themselves imposed sanctions against their own compass. So they have to left. But we were also willing to the sanctions to be released so they can come. You know, we were producing 3 million barrels per day. When sanctions came, that dropped to 300,000 barrels per day, from 3 million to 300,000 barrels per day. Little by little, President Maduro and the government has succeeded to increase this production to 1.2 million barrels per day. But of course, we are the major oil reserve in the world, so we have a lot of oil, and we were willing to work with them, but it not will be for free as they pretend now. If they want, they have to pay as the other foreign companies does. And that is the issue.
So when Trump says he's the head of Venezuela and Secretary of State is Prime Minister or something, this is not a reality on the ground. The political decisions, the economic decisions of the Venezuelan government remain autonomous and independent, or is President Rodriguez negotiating and making concessions from time to time? Break it down for us, this idea that you're saying you are not a colony of the US, when the US is telling the whole world that you are now their colony.
Yes, it's very sad statement that they have said very often, saying that they are the acting president of Venezuela. Is ridiculous indeed. It's not the truth, of course, but they are saying so. They said also that Canada is the 51st state of USA, is the weight of acts, is making the politics something hilarious and unacceptable for a head of a state of a nuclear power country as USA. But of course, it's not what is happening in Venezuela. On the other hand, what is true is that we are in a table with them negotiating in order to guarantee the peace and stability in our country, in order to guarantee our sovereignty and independence. But we are in talks with them. As I said before, we are not disagreed on them to come back in our oil industry. For do that, they have also to release some sanctions to allow them to come back. We are in these talks. It's true, it's not an easy negotiation, as we have a gun pointed on our head, and as they have our president in their hands. But we know how to deal with it, and the non-negotiable issue is our sovereignty and independence. We have stated many times, we are not going to allow them to treat us as a colony.
Yeah.
And our deputy minister, the acting president, has been very firm. Just yesterday, she was highlighting this with in very strong terms.
Ambassador, let me ask then about the response of the Latin American and Caribbean community, particularly the heads of state who have met soon after that. What would the Venezuelans really want as a form of solidarity from the Latin American community? You are faced with an unreasonable administration in the US willing to spill blood, seemingly, to achieve its objectives in Venezuela. Is it justified that you would expect a military contingent from the Latin American and Caribbean community to be based in Venezuela to make sure that the abduction of another head of state doesn't happen, at least until Trump leaves the administration? Would that be something you expect? If not, what is the concrete support that you are expecting from, the association, the solidarity of Latin American and Caribbean communities?
It's what happened is a threat not only against Venezuela, but against them as well. That's why they understand it, and almost in an unanimous way, they have condemned U.S. military intervention. Even those countries or those presidents that do not like President Nicolás Maduro has condemned the U.S. military intervention. So the solidarity has been, of course, we have levels. We have Cuba or Nicaragua, which solidarity is very strong. But also, almost, as I said, almost all the countries has condemned U.S. military intervention. Trump, the same day, the same third, when he has this press conference, he was celebrating, but he was threatening President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro. He threatened Mexico. He threatened Cuba. So we cannot accept that. It was unacceptable. And those Latin American countries understand and has a strong position and against that. Even, as I said, countries that wasn't agreed with President Maduro. Of course, there are some exceptions as well. But what can we do with that? And it happened also in the world, in the entire world. The European Union, that was many of the countries there was also in disagreed with President Maduro, but has to condemn the U.S. military aggression. Prime Minister Meloni in Italy, a close friend from Trump that shared sometimes same thoughts, was against what he did, because was too evident the unbroken of the law. Then you cannot do whatever you want. You have to stick some laws that has to be respected.
Yes.
And they understand that if they are like this against Venezuela, they can act against other country, and we have seen. Now this Greenland issue is the same. He thinks he can do whatever they want.
Obviously, my concern here is you are faced with an administration in the United States willing to use military resources to achieve its objectives. And the reason I asked about Latin America and the Caribbean concretely defending. The Cubans lost actual people because their friendship with Venezuela is a friendship they are willing to bleed for, to lose lives for. But those are the losses in Cuba. Is there some continental agreement that can be reached to send a force for stability and to make sure the United States doesn't repeat in the interest of sovereignty of the Venezuelans, they don't repeat the type of aggression we have seen, specifically in light of what you are saying, that they start in Venezuela, the next place is Colombia, Mexico, Cuba, Brazil even.
Although what happened, our position is always for peace. And indeed, we are celebrating today the 12th anniversary of the Statement of La Habana. That was the statement approved by the CELAC, that is the Community of States of Latin America and the Caribbean, in the second summit of heads of state held in La Habana in 12 years from now, in 2014, where we stated that the region, Latin American and the Caribbean region, is an area of peace without nuclear power and without colonialism. But it's an area of peace, a region of peace. We cannot allow not military intervention. And even right-wing governments and leftist government made an agreement on this. It was a big success that we have in the CELAC. And that's what we are pushing on. What we have is our voices. But in a united way, our voices can be stronger. They have the nuclear military power. And they have the willing to use it, that they have demonstrated. How to go against that? We have no nuclear power in our region, and it's not our objective neither. What we are claiming is for peace, building of peace. But even though we are 33 countries that can also, if we achieve to speak together, to raise our voice for peace, and that has to be understood and listened. U.S. is also very diverse. It's not only Republicans and Democrats. It's not only, how do you say it in English? It's not only falcons and doves. It's also a people. They have made street demonstrations, important street demonstrations against what the government does in Venezuela. And we believe they have also a voice to set, a voice to raise against this colonialist pretension and this military pretension that their administration wants to spread or wants to have. They have also problems inside. You have seen what happened in Minneapolis. So we believe in this big movement of peace against their pretensions, against these colonialist and military pretensions that they have. We believe in, and we are working for it. It's our peace, it's our weapon, and our victory will be.
The night that President Maduro was captured, he had a session with a special envoy from President Xi. Are you able to take us into confidence what was discussed there? But maybe explain to us where the friendship that Venezuela and China had, shouldn't that friendship have resulted into a defense of President Maduro? Because the United States had been gathering at your shores for a couple of weeks. It was clear what they were planning to do. And you've got a superpower on your side. If it was in the 70s, the Russians would have intervened during the Cold War in defense of Venezuela. I'm wondering, what was that meeting about, if you are able to tell us? But also, is it reasonable to have expected that China sends actual military help to defend the sovereignty in light of the friendship they shared with the people of Venezuela?
Of course, the details of the meeting I cannot say, but I have to say that it was in the frame of the very important relations of friendships and cooperation that we have with China. It's not the first time neither. We used to have these visits on both sides because of the strategic relations which we have with China. And they have defended us. Of course, they have defended us. They have made strong positions against what happened, and they are still there supporting us, asking for the release of President Maduro. And we know these voices speak loud, and we really appreciate their support. And that is the support we need. And that is the support we're asking for. Same as Russia, same as Iran. All those positions have been very strong. And we are working together in the UN to that our voice has a meaning also, and stop these pretensions. Is what we are doing.
How do you then plan to get President Maduro released?
We are launching a big international solidarity campaign, call it Bring Them Back, to ask for the release of President Maduro and also his wife, Sila Flores, that she's a member of parliament, by the way, in the diplomatic level, also in the legal level. I mean, we are going to play that game also. We know it's a political issue, but also we have a group of defense in the U.S. legal system that are already working for it. But in the diplomatic level, we have to increase this campaign to the biggest level and achieve with success the release of President Maduro and First Lady Sila Flores, and I am confident that we are going to make sooner or later.
When last did the government interact with President Maduro and her? That access, are they in good spirit? Are they in good health?
Yes.
Are the United States prison guards and prison warders respecting the expected code of treatment of prisoners?
Well, when they present charges on the 5th of January, President Maduro declared himself as a prisoner of war. Although that, he's treated as a regular prison in a Brooklyn prison. But his son, 2 days ago, have spoke to us, to all the Venezuelan people and to all the world, to said some news about him, telling that he's in a good shape, but most important, in a good spirit. He's strong. He's with the strongness that gives you the reason and the moral reason, and with the confidence also that many people are working on this campaign. And as we said, with the head up, how is it?
With
the head up,
yes.
With dignity.
Yes.
Is something they are not going to take him away.
And the state of the First Lady?
Also the same state. She's a brave woman as well. You know, she's not only the First Lady, she's a member of parliament. She's a woman that has been struggling all her life. She's a woman committed with the revolution. She has been the Speaker of the National Assembly from several years.
Yes.
And she has been, she was the lawyer who took the case of Hugo Chávez when he was in prison in 1992, 1994. So she's a combatant as well. And she's also with very good spirit and with dignity.
Maybe my final question, Ambassador, is your friendship with the Cubans. We here in the continent know the strength, the resilience of the Cuban people. They bled for Southern Africa's liberation as well.
Right.
In the Battle of Cuto-Carnaval.
Right.
And that bond, despite what liberals think, it is a bond that is forged in blood. The Cubans were significant, and they more than Umkhonto confronted the Boers in battle in demand of liberation. And they've been the same to the Venezuelans. What is the state of that friendship at the moment, taking the losses during the night of President Maduro's abduction?
The friendship we have with Cuba is unbreakable. I think this situation is even strengthened our friendship and feeling of solidarity that we have, Cubans and Venezuelans. We see us as brothers and sisters. And that is something that they are not going to broke, never. What we have built, especially with President Chávez and President Fidel Castro, is a relation for the future, not only for the present, based in principles of sovereignty, of dignity, of heroism, of a struggle. And that is something that is there. We have been hit, we have been struck, we have been very hard hit, but we are still standing, Cuba and Venezuela, and we are still standing together.
The next elections in Venezuela will take place in a couple of years. If the situation remains as it is, What will happen if President Maduro, you know how trials take forever. The campaign may be strong and powerful in the international community, but I don't think you are faced with a reasonable person in the person of Trump. Very soon, they may extend that aggression on Iran. The world will focus on Iran. Soon after that, they may focus on Greenland. The world will focus on Greenland. We don't know what will happen with regards to the rising tension with the Chinese. In the next elections, what happens in Venezuela? Do you go to elections when you've got an adopted head of state held in a prison in North America? What becomes the political situation when it's very clear the objective of this abduction was to weaken an outcome of an election that has been the same for decades? Do you or do you not go to elections, and what does the law say?
First of all, we have to deal with a very difficult situation now. We are not still on that step. We have to defend our sovereignty. We have to deal with those threats that the U.S. administration is every day stating against us. And that is our priority. Is a complex situation, a new situation. But they have to be more concerned on the elections that they have to face at the end of the year. Their elections. Because popularity of Trump has also dropped down. And Trump is just 1 year at the presidency, and it's amazing when you see all the threat and all the things he has done. No? And for us, our constitution said our next elections is in 2031. Because what this says, our law, is not considering an abduction of president. Any law does so. Of course, they consider an absentia regarding illness, regarding death, of course, but not of an abduction of kidnapping. But as I said, we are now focusing in, first of all, avoiding another strike, guaranteed our people stability and can live in peaceful way, and also defending our sovereignty and working in the international field to stop their pretensions of military intervention, of colonialist pretensions. That's our focus now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
But I have to say it also that we are confident in our people, the people of Bolívar and Chávez. And we are confident that we will overcome all these new challenges we have. And we're confident that we will prevail, the Venezuelan people will prevail.
I'm confident too, and I'm certainly sure that the rest of the global South is in complete solidarity with the people of Venezuela. Certainly we are, because South Africa faces aggression as well from President Trump.
Yeah.
Fundamentally based on lies, which have been peddled by some South Africans, both here at home and in the US. But we have to indicate that the people of Venezuela must be strong, because we know that that which has happened to you can happen to the rest of us.
That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Your Excellency.